Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into the notoriously confusing landscape of gifted and talented education in New York State. Listen, if you're looking ahead to the 2026 school year and feeling completely overwhelmed by all the conflicting information out there, you are absolutely not alone. And hey, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to take all of that complex bureaucracy, filter out the noise, and organize it into a crystal clear action plan for your family. If you're a parent in New York trying to navigate this system, we're going to start right here by addressing your biggest anxiety. You might think that if your child is labeled gifted, well, a seat in a specialized classroom is automatically waiting for them, right? Spoiler alert, it is not always that simple. It is so incredibly easy to assume the label equals the placement, but that assumption, it can literally cost your child an opportunity. Understanding exactly why that is absolutely crucial to setting your kid up for success, and that's exactly what we're going to untangle right now. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the gifted education puzzle, defining gifted in New York, screening versus actual enrollment, the New York City exception, and finish up with your parent action plan.
Section 1. The Gifted Education Puzzle.
This dynamic right here, this is the foundation of everything you need to know. New York state law requires public schools to screen new entrants for possible giftedness. But, and this is a massive but, it does not require every single district to actually operate a gifted and talented program. The state sets the floor by mandating the screening, but your local district builds the house by deciding if a program even exists to put your child into. Think of it kind of like a construction project. The state gives you the baseline blueprint, but it's entirely up to your local town whether they actually want to spend the money and resources to build the thing. You really have to understand that this is a highly localized game.
Section 2. Defining gifted in New York.
When we hear the word gifted, we usually picture a math whiz or maybe a kid who started reading at age 2. But New York State definition is actually surprisingly broad. They explicitly define gifted pupils as students showing exceptional potential in general intellectual ability, special academic aptitude, or, get this, outstanding ability in the visual and performing arts. This really proves that giftedness isn't just limited to a single test score. It can show up as raw creativity, complex problem solving, or distinct leadership. The state recognizes that certain students are just going to require specialized services far beyond the standard curriculum to reach their full potential. They're actively looking for those outliers who need a totally different kind of challenge. Okay, so how does this screening actually play out? Well, if your child is entering a New York public school for the very first time, or maybe re-entering without a prior screening record, they're considered a new entrant, and they absolutely must be screened. The school is looking for potential giftedness as well as possible disabilities or English language learning needs. Now, if your child is identified as possibly gifted during this process, the superintendent has to notify you with a written report within 15 calendar days. Let me repeat that. 15 days. It's a tight, incredibly fast turnaround that you need to be actively watching out for. Honestly, if you blink, you might miss it. So you want to be on high alert the second your child takes any sort of entry assessment.
Section 3. Screening versus actual enrollment.
This is the two-tiered reality that trips up so many families. Being screened and identified as eligible under the state mandate, that is literally just step 1. It does not automatically guarantee enrollment. Why? Because of local control. If your district actually has a program, they set the placement criteria. They decide the seat limits, and they dictate the grade-specific rules. The state might hand your child a golden ticket saying they're eligible, but your local district, they act as the ultimate bouncer at the door, deciding who actually gets to walk into the classroom. To really grasp why this is so localized, you have to look at what the state explicitly does not do. New York State doesn't maintain a master directory of programs, it doesn't force districts to run them, and it doesn't prescribe a single curriculum. Even the screening tools themselves are chosen entirely at the local level. This means two kids living in different parts of New York can have wildly different experiences. A student in Brooklyn might have access to a dedicated, full-time gifted class, while a student in Buffalo might only get pull-out enrichment once a week. And a kid in the next town over, they might have absolutely nothing at all. Now, there's a very important protection built into this system. If a local program does exist, students with disabilities who are also identified as gifted, these are often called twice exceptional students, they cannot be excluded. The system protects them right alongside multilingual learners, ensuring that if they qualify based on local measures, they have the exact same right to that enrichment as anyone else. This is a huge, crucial piece of advocacy to keep in your back pocket. A disability or language barrier absolutely does not disqualify a child from gifted services in New York. Section 4. The New York City exception.
We have to pivot here because families in New York City face a highly centralized admissions process that operates completely differently from the rest of the state. For the 2026 cycle, New York City has a very strict timeline. If you're targeting kindergarten for fall 2026, children born in 2021 are eligible to apply. The city manages all these deadlines directly on its enrollment pages. And for older kids, the city posts completely separate eligibility timelines for grades 1 through 4. It is a rigid, unforgiving annual cycle. In the city, missing a deadline literally means missing a seat. The bureaucracy there is pretty notorious, and they just don't hand out extensions. So you have to treat these dates like absolute top priority items.
Section 5. Your Parent Action Plan.
Okay, this is your screenshotable checklist. Because the state sets the floor, but your local district decides the details, you just cannot rely on state websites alone. You need to contact your local district office today and ask these exact questions. Number 1, do you operate a gifted program? How exactly are students screened here? What are your specific placement criteria? Are there different rules for kindergarten versus older grades? And finally, how exactly are disabilities considered? You really need to get these answers directly from the source, ideally in writing, so you know exactly what game you're playing locally. As we look at the landscape for 2026, gifted programs remain an incredible way to provide acceleration and challenge for students. But man, the system is undeniably complex. It heavily rewards families who stay exceptionally organized, who religiously watch their local deadlines, and who proactively ask for written explanations of eligibility procedures. In this system, you really have to be your child's project manager. No one else is going to just automatically usher your child into these programs without you taking the wheel and steering the entire process. So, what does this all mean for you? Your smartest next step is to just stop making assumptions based on what you might hear from parents in other towns and start asking targeted questions about your specific district. The rules in New York City aren't going to help you in Buffalo, and a state screening mandate won't guarantee a seat if your local school simply doesn't offer one. So I'm going to leave you with this. Do you actually know your local district's deadlines and exactly what they're looking for? Because in New York, having a gifted label doesn't mean a thing if you're a day late. Find out your dates, ask the right questions, and you'll be well on your way.